I was detained. I was detained because actually they told me that it was incitement or hate speech, but it wasn't. After all, they let me go. I had a sign saying, as an Israeli and Jew, stop the genocide in Gaza, and I did it alone by myself because it was forbidden in Germany for 3 weeks after the 7th of October to have any assembly which they defined as pro-Palestinian, while the German government was organizing pro-Israeli demonstrations. Yeah. They mobilized, you know, the church, unions, I mean, many institutions which in other places are mobilizing people to pro-Palestinian demonstration. The German state was also financing these institutions. For example, the church, I mean, partly mobilized them. The Jewish Voice for Peace is an organization that was grounded 20 years ago. In the beginning we say not in our name, because what Israel is doing, Israel claims to speak for the Jews, for all the Jews in the world, without any permission from the Jews. So we have to say it's not in our name. What you're doing has nothing to do with Judaism. It's against Judaism, and we protest against it. Also because we want to fight anti-Semitism, because, you know, people look at that and see this is the Jewish state. They are speaking for the Jews. All Jews probably think like that. And they are also recruiting Jewish communities all over the world. So one has to protest against it, especially, I think, Jews in this position. Of course, it's a paradox, because we are in solidarity with Palestinian people, but one doesn't have to be a Jew in order to be in solidarity with Palestinian people. It's not that it's a special qualification. You know, we say it as Jews only because Israel is doing the crimes in the names of the Jews. So we wanted also to have a demonstration against the genocide in Gaza, also helping Palestinian people just, you know, to find some space and room to mourn, to shout, to say something. For me also as a Jew, that's a private thing, you know, when I see what Palestinians are going through here, in Germany, in other places, it reminds me what Jews went through when they were excluded, outcasted, deprived from everything. You're just being robbed and dehumanized because you're not even entitled to have feelings. What is more human, you know, than feelings, thoughts? You become, you know, just like a stone. So you just have to die quietly. This is what Palestinians are expected to do now. So it was important for me also. I was restless. I couldn't just keep quiet. And I thought, you know, in Germany, as a Jew and as an Israeli, I still have more privileges. So I have to use it. 60% of the Jews are living outside Israel, 40% in Israel. In Israel, the left people are shrinking, you know, all the time. What happens is that they have a big coalition, or had for many years a big coalition, which means that they became more and more right. And there is a problem, a contradiction between Zionism and being leftist. So they tried to be leftist and to be socialist, but it was socialism for Jews. And socialism for white Jews, actually, because Jews that came from Arab Muslim countries, or also from Greece, you know, or Bulgaria, they were in the hierarchy in Israel. They were under the Jews that came from Germany, or Jews that came from Poland or the Soviet Union. So there is a contradiction between a colonial society and racist society and socialism. It doesn't work together. So the Jews that we see in the left are mainly in places where are Jews. Most Jews in the world, the big concentrations are in the USA. And this is also where we see a lot of protest of Jews, Jewish organizations, but many Jews who are organized in other organizations which are not Jewish Voice for Peace, or If Not Now, or Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. They are there. Well, I don't think it's a guilt of Europe, actually, because if Europe would be really feeling guilty, yeah? I mean, there is difference between being guilty and guilt feelings, yeah? So let's say the people that live nowadays in Europe are not guilty for the Holocaust. They didn't do it. It's their ancestors. So what they could have is guilt feelings, or maybe some of them have. But they found an address for these guilt feelings, and the address is Israel, that represent the Jews. And it's not real Israel, it's a fantasy of Israel. Because many of them, when they come to Israel or when they go to the West Bank, for example, it's not possible to go to Gaza, of course, for the last almost 16, 17 years. So they see suddenly, you know, a different reality, which does not correspond with their fantasy about what Israel is. So I think, I mean, first of all, Germany and all the West, Germany, the UK, the USA, they were the last countries that supported the apartheid in South Africa. Where was their guilt at that time? Because, I mean, if you are guilty because you were so racist and you killed people because of their race, then it shouldn't be limited to Jews. So, you know, now they are trying to compensate for Jews after they kill them. So who are the Jews that they are feeling guilty about? It's the Jews that they like. So they are supporting in Germany the Jews who are organized formally in the Central Committee of the Jews in Germany, who are conservatives, who are pro-Israeli, who are also cooperating with this capitalistic system of Israel, USA, and all this order. So I don't buy this story of guilt feelings. I think if they really have guilt feelings and if they would really care for Israel, then they wouldn't let Israel do what it does, because Israel is destroying now Gaza and the Palestinian society, but it's also destroying itself. Israel is committing suicide now, and Germany gives the weapon for that. Because it cannot be violent to the outside without being violent to the inside. So all these destructive process that we are seeing, we see, for example, I mean, Israel is, the expertise of Israel is the high-tech society, high-tech industry and security industry. So, for example, there are kibbutzim, socialists, yeah, they were socialists, who are building all the vehicles with which you can disperse demonstrations. So, for example, in Greece, when the Greek people went to the street, the police, the Greek police, was using water cannons that are produced in a kibbutz in Israel. And Israel can sell these cannons because Israel has portfolios with data that shows that it was tried and experimented on Palestinians and that there are good results. And the same applies also, you know, to when we go to the airport and we are doing this scanning, you know. That was all tried in Gaza. In the checkpoints in Gaza. So now we see that these vehicles, these water cannons, are applied on Israelis, Jewish Israelis that are protesting against the Israeli government. They are now being hurt with these cannons. So you cannot, if this is your solution, if you think I can solve a problem with violence, and if it doesn't work, then I'll apply more violence. This is the way you think, this is the way you operate. This is the way you will do it also within your own home, family, society, community. It is destructive. I mean, there is so much weapon in Israel now. Civilians, that if you can differentiate really between civilians and non-civilians in Israel, have so much weapon. Of course, they will shoot one another also with it. They are already doing that. What Germany is doing is actually also committing suicide. I mean, they are shooting their own, you know, constitution. Germany has a good constitution. After the war, the Second World War, when people really felt the destructiveness and the loss, because I mean, it was, everything was destroyed here in Germany. So at that point, they understood that being authoritarian is something very destructive. Also, you know, you cannot be manic and do whatever you want and just don't care about the others, but do care about your own children. So it doesn't work. And now they have really to choose between their constitution and the support of Israel and the support of the USA. I mean, it's not that they are supporting Israel. Germany Also, if we look about, concerning Ukraine and Russia, Germany do not have any policy which is different than the US policy. They will do whatever the USA will say, and afterwards they will pay the price, because the USA will get out of Ukraine at some point. They said also, we don't have money for all that. They, managed to get, to succeed to, apply their interest there in the Ukraine and Russia, and shut all the energy pipelines and whatever that we know, and they will go out. And Germany, who is, they are our neighbors, yeah? Germany starts to prepare the population for a war. If we look at the party of Sarah Wagenknecht, it's a rhetoric which is anti-war rhetoric. The problem that it's nationalistic. That's the problem. So it's a left who is taking also voters, or attracting voters from the right, because she takes also themes from the right. She said, we don't have enough for everyone. We have to, people should have more. It should be a welfare state, but we cannot support migrants anymore. Yeah? So there is also this rhetoric, and that's a problem. So people voted for this leftist party probably because of these two elements. Many people just want something new.
AfD is the new?
AfD is for them new because, if you're young and you don't remember, or your parents don't carry that with them, and it's something, it's something very destructive. Sometimes, after we see it, after wars, there is a baby boom. Because after destruction, the people have the need to have something new. So you don't have to mourn what's going on. You can be busy, with babies and with new things, and so AfD is new in that sense that they were not in the government. After years of Christian Democrats and Angela Merkel that were characterized by stagnation, because her line was, we change nothing. We just, and if you change nothing, it becomes worse. There is no stagnation. Yeah? So they see that, there are not enough physicians, there are not enough teachers, there are not enough people that will build houses, whatever. Because Germany was not qualifying these people. Germany enjoyed the fact that people came after the crisis from Italy, from Spain, from Greece. But now there are people who are, people are needed everywhere in the world and in Europe. So if people can choose, they don't come to Germany. So for example, there is an agency, I read it in the newspaper, agency for nurses in the Philippines. And the German man that was managing that, he closed it because they say, they are reading and see that Germany becomes more racist. And if they can choose, between Saudi Arabia, they pay also well there, they will go there and not to Germany. Why should they come to Germany? Racism was always there. It's not only that it's in the rise, but it was more a taboo. It was, for example, a taboo to hit Jews. That the police will go against Jews, that was a taboo. Now, it's not that our blood is different than the blood of Palestinians or Muslims or Greek people or whatever, but it's a symptom of the idea of Germany that we are over it. We have a great memory culture. We are actually done. We paid Israel, we paid that, we build this museum, we build this monument. Berlin is full of monuments, we are good people. Germany can be great again. And that started after unification, actually, because Germany became bigger. Germany is a financial power, but Germany is also committing suicide also in that sense, because you cannot just, export all the time and exploit everyone and still have welfare yourself or still have Europe. The European Union will collapse if Germany will go on doing this, I would say also manic politics economically. We have a different politics in the last years in which it's pseudo-democracy. They kind of represent us, but actually they don't represent us. So if you look also at the Greens, let's not talk about Israel, Palestine, whatever. The Greens, that's a Green Party, their main issue was an ecological issue. They came in power, they made exactly the opposite of what they promised. Now in Germany, for example, the Last Generation, that's an organization of activists that were active against the climate change, you know. They are declared as terrorist organization in Germany. Climate change, yeah, activists against climate change. They are declared as terrorist organization, and in Bavaria, they changed the law now, and it is actually like in Israel, they introduced the possibility to detain people and to put people in jail if you have the assumption that this person will do something bad, will do a harm. So it's like administrative detainment, like Israel is doing with the Palestinians. You just put people to jail without court, without any process. This is what the terror organizations are doing. So we have a very perverse situation in which people that are calling for ceasefire are being considered as terrorists, and the people in the government who are actually supposed to represent the people who are not in agreement. All polls, also in Germany, shows that the people are not in accordance with the government. But it's like, you know, we have just a kind of mafia organization that they just do what they want. The people who manage the politics are, you know, the people in the press, kind of elite, yeah, in the press, in the army, in the government, sometimes in the academy. Many of them, and with time more and more. So it's not that different in Greece or in the USA or in Germany. I think it's a problem of all, I would say, Western democracies. I don't know enough the other countries. But if you look in Chile, for example, you see that people went on the streets and they made some change. It's not that it's, you know, that it's good or whatever. Or if we look in South Africa, of course, it's not the paradise, but it's better than apartheid. And people went on the street, and people were boycotting, and people were trying to bypass the politics. The leftists are actually worse for the government. The fascists are are much more in the state organizations. They are much more protected. If we look now at the fight against anti-Semitism. So actually it's not a fight against anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism became the thing. With it, with which you can just do Gleichschaltung. It's a very German word. You can mourn the lawn, in which, in a sense that you just, you know, you make all people equal, that they will think the same, they will say the same. There is a clear border. So there is a policing through anti-Semitism, or with the aid of these terms of anti-Semitism. So you can control what people will say, where will they gather, who will gather, what will they write, what is allowed, what is not allowed to think. And the only anti-Semitism that they are using is the anti-Semitism that is associated with Israel. So all the anti-Semitism of the right, they are not fighting it. So the right sin, and this is known already for years, and has nothing to do also with Israel-Palestine. So the right wing, and in the police and in the state attorney, they have more people now, more and more people there. Are they are turning a blind eye to what's going on there. This is already old. I mean, there was a series of murders in Germany done by an underground, a Nazi underground. Yeah, so they were murdering people for years, and the police went to the families of these people and accused them for this murder. There were Turkish people, there were Greek people. Mainly Turkish and Greek. And the police started to investigate after a policewoman was killed. She was, I think, the 19th victim. Until then, they were just, accusing the families for for these murders, yeah? And after they discovered that there is this underground and they are responsible for all that, the press called it Döner murders. I mean, it's like, you know, shawarma murder, yeah? This is how they call it, like it's, you know, it's kind of folklore thing, and it's not a racist thing, you know, just to kill people like that for years, accusing their families. And after they investigated these serial murders, they had an archive in the state of Saxony, I think, and this archive suddenly, where all the documents were kept, suddenly, you know, it burned. Yeah? So, and we know that there are people in the state attorney who are right-wing, who are in the AfD. It's not something new. We know that the police is cooperating with them against leftist people. So if there is, you know, a squat and people are going to be evacuated, the policemen have sometimes, you know, the address and names and whatever and all the registers because they get it from the state attorney and they have their own connections. So the constitutional guard is mainly busy with the left. That's known already for years. And for them, the left is actually more dangerous than...
Hopefully. Hopefully the left
is really more dangerous, yeah, but it's not. I mean, we see that there is a rise in the right wing. They have more access to resources, and it's not a taboo anymore, so they can say things. I mean, this is the racism that always existed, but now it's not a taboo anymore. So you can say things and you can advance all the time. So you can just say, well, we have to talk about demography. And you start to talk about demography in a racist way, and then someone tells you, no, you cannot say anything. You say, okay, I apologize, yeah? But you say it, yeah? And then you say it again, and you say it again, you say it again. And at some point it becomes normalized. Well, in the beginning, I was a traitor for them, but I was a traitor mainly because I left Israel, not because I came to Germany. Germany is considered in Israel to be a very liberal place, a good place. I mean, for some of them, okay, Germany is a bad place because of the history and of the Nazi history. But for many of them, I mean, if I would come to Germany and I would work here for the Israeli propaganda and I would be a Zionist, they would think that I'm great. Yeah? The main problem is the fact that I left Israel and I'm not pro-Israeli and I'm not a Zionist. That's the main thing. And also, you know, I left already. If you leave Israel, it's not like leaving Greece, because, I mean, you leave Greece because of financial problems. It's not that you think, you know, Greek is a colonial state, it has to dismantle itself, its structure as a state. You think maybe the politics is not good, this party is not good, whatever, but it's not. I mean, I questioned the whole thing. When I started to question it, I thought, well, I live here at the expense of Palestinians that were expelled from here, so I cannot really live in peace. That is not the case in Greece, because, you know, it grew, or it became Greece throughout the years. It has an history. Israel is a construction, a very artificial construction. You have to create people, you have to create a common mythology, which they don't have, so they have the Holocaust as a common mythology. You have to create people that had nothing to do with one another beside the same religion. But the Zionists said, we are secular, we are not religious, so they cannot use religion as a common ground. It's like, I mean, there is an Israeli historian, Amnon Razka-Kotzkin, he said that's the paradox of Zionism, because they say there is no God, but he gave us the land. So you have to live, you know, in this field of paradoxy. So in that sense, I am a traitor because I left, and I said, and I say clearly, I'm leaving because of political reasons and because I don't see a perspective in Israel. Israel cannot, this construct, this community, the way it works on exploiting, it's so destructive that there is no future for Israel which is not destructive. And this is something I said 22 years ago, you know, I mean, nobody wanted to hear that, nobody could hear it. So my family, of course, they treat me also as a traitor, but I know, I mean, my brother told me, for example, that my mother told him, Iris was right, I mean, some years ago. So it's a disavowal because, I mean, they deny, you cannot live in Israel with this consciousness like I had. I mean, you have to live at some, because it's unbearable to live like that. So if you can, you live. I have many friends that cannot live and they are suffering a lot because they are too old, because they have autistic children, because, you know, many reasons, not everybody can live. And this is also, it's not a solution, it's not a political solution, it's a private solution, personal solution. So people, on one hand, I'm a traitor, on the other hand, they are very envy. Because, you know, now the best thing you can give an Israeli is a passport, which is not an Israeli passport. So they are trying to get German passports, Bulgarian passport, Greek passports, Portuguese passport. Portugal is also for sale. So Portugal gave the possibility for many Israelis to have passports if they could prove that they are coming from families that were expelled after the Reconquista from Portugal and Spain. So everybody wants to get out, if you can, because it's clear that there is no good future. I mean, they are going to hell. I mean, they are driving fast to hell.
You don't believe that they can have one state, as it's discussed with the Palestinians, the creation of one state of equal people?
Of course, I think it is possible, but I don't think that it will be possible, that it will be feasible. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that it will be feasible. In order to have that, we have a group of 15% of religious national people who are also weaponized with ideology, okay? It's not, I mean, they are messianic, they can shoot, they will shoot, they are also in the army. So you have to fight them in order to reach such an agreement, or they will at some point realize and say, okay, it doesn't work. I don't think that messianic people can realize that. You know, it's also, you know, if you look at the Nazis, what they did, it was clear after Stalingrad that they are going to lose. But they couldn't stop. Because at some point you cannot stop. You cannot, I mean, if Israelis will stop now, they cannot stop by themselves. If they will stop now and they will have to look at what they destroyed, it's such, I mean, and how many children of their own they sacrificed for years. And so many people who are traumatic. I mean, I don't want to, you know, to depict them as the big victims here. But if we look from their perspective, I mean, it's hard to stop and to say, okay, I mean, we were wrong, it doesn't work. So you need someone from the outside to stop them, like in South Africa. Yeah? Someone that will say, it doesn't work. You have to give that up. Now, this is what we try to do also, you know, with BDS, and to put pressure from the outside so that they will say at some point, someone from the outside will say, it doesn't work, and put some border and say, I mean, you have to change. And then maybe they also don't lose their dignity, or it's a minority of people who say we should go on. Also in South Africa, there are white racists who think it was a problem, and they are still, you know, they have their own idea. It's not that it's totally over. But I don't see how the Israeli society is so weak, is so psychically, is so genocidal. It's such a norm to talk in a genocidal, racist way. The structure of the I mean, in Germany, for example, you have racists. Yeah? Until now, the state itself, the structure was not very racist. It was not racist at all. You know, in schools here, you see how they treat children differently. But the constitution or the law itself is not a racist law. In Israel, the law is racist. If you're a Jew, you have other laws than if you're not a non-Jew. Yeah? And within the Jewish society, there is what we see in Germany. You have these racist regulations. But the law in itself is racist. So if you grow up in Israel, you internalize this racism. You think that this is normal. You talk like this. Everybody talks like that, and they think it's completely normal. So if I would call to the Ministry of Education and I say, well, I'm sorry, I need something for my child, let's say, yeah? I'm sorry I'm calling so late in the year before the school year starts. I'm sorry, but maybe we can, how can I arrange it? And then the worker there, the clerk who works for the ministry said, don't worry, I'll put you before the Arabs. So that, you know, it's normal. You can just say it with no shame. You don't have fear that someone will tell you it's wrong, someone will do something. It's completely normal. This is the way you live. So after so many years of this deep-rooted racism, it's really hard for them. And it becomes more and more normal to be also genocidal. It's normal just to say, and I see it also, you know, also people from the left after the 7th of October. People who I know, they talked in a genocidal way. We have to exterminate them, every one of them. And they really, I could go also with this sign. I knew it's a genocide because I was reading in social media in Hebrew, and I saw how they are talking, and I saw that they were in a mindset of, in German we said, Endsieg. So it's the total war. It's now we are going to do it once and for all. And you know, like Eichmann talked about Jews. When Eichmann was in Argentinian, there was an interview with him by a Nazi journalist, and he talked with him, and then one could see the real Eichmann, not the one that had the trial in Israel who played the bureaucrat. The real Eichmann was really nervous and furious that he was not able to kill all the Jews. There were some people left, and millions. And the Germans, the Nazis, had this manic idea that they can kill every Jew in the world. They can, you know, and then everything will be good. They will have paradise on earth. So this is also the way that I saw how Jews in Israel, I mean, that was their mindset. They were really convinced in the beginning that they can kill everyone who is going to harm every Hamas person and whatever, and it is going in 2 weeks, something like that, and then everything will be good. Yeah, that's the problem. Now they are less manic. Now it's clear. I mean, it was anyhow a mission impossible. A manic idea is always a mission impossible. It's built in. The failure is built in. But now they realize that, I mean, that they lost. Actually, they lost. But if you were not psychotic, if you could look at reality, it was clear that they are going to lose. It was also clear that the 7th of October will come. I don't know how it did not happen before, actually. But you cannot, you know, just suppress people, put them in a ghetto, and think that it's going to be okay. And you're not going to hear from them anything, or that you can just control them. And every now and then, you know, you can bomb, and it can go like that. They really had this concept of conflict management, they called it. It is a society problem. Netanyahu was elected, and there was a majority of people who elected him. Yeah? So maybe people are now, they think he should go. But it's also the idea that if he will go, then everything will be good. The problem is not Netanyahu. Netanyahu is the symptom of the problem. And the problem is Zionism, or the problem is colonialism, or the problem is racism. Call it how you want to call it. But if you don't have equality in a society, even if if all the people are Greek people or German people, you know, if there are so many people who have a lot and many people who have nothing, then you create envy, and you create, people will be furious, people will be angry. So you have to keep them all the time, you know, if you give them enough money so that they are not too angry, you can control it, yeah? But at some point, if they are hungry and they have nothing to lose and whatever, then they will go on the street. And in Israel, it's a combination. That's a catastrophe also. It's a combination between racism, it's like in the USA actually, racism and capitalism. So Israel, that was supposed to be the safe place for the Jews in the world, became actually a safe place for the rich Jews. or rich people in the world. So there were many people, rich Jews that bought houses, factories, whatever in Israel. They came there, they lived there maybe a week or 2 weeks or a month in a year. And these places stayed, just empty. So of course all the market is being changed because you don't have enough places for people to live. You don't have infrastructure because nobody's going to open a supermarket for someone who's coming there for 1 month in a year. So this is also something that created also the occupied, the people that had to live and to go to the occupied territories in the West Bank because they could not live in Jerusalem because the center of Jerusalem was occupied by rich people, that came once in a while. And the poor people had to go to the occupied territories. So it's a combination of this capitalistic system that we see also, Israel is an army it's a high-tech army that is serving not the Israeli population, but the Western countries, not only Western, also Brazil used the Israeli knowledge when they had to evacuate the stadium in Rio de Janeiro. They brought Israeli army officers that taught them how to do that, how to evacuate all the favelas. Because Israel's expertise is to fight civilians. This is what I know. And if you look at it, and if you look at reality, in the last 50 years, Israeli soldiers did not see another soldier. The last time Israeli soldiers were fighting an army was 1973. Since then, they are chasing after children, women, men, who are throwing stones, who are shooting now. They have sometimes a weapon. Or they met guerrilla fighters in Lebanon, Hezbollah. It's not an army. They are well structured, they know how to fight maybe, but it's not a state army. So these are not really soldiers that they know how to fight, and they are also not highly motivated, like, guerrilla fighters. Guerrilla fighters, they know they are going to die. If they will come alive, they are lucky, yeah? Soldiers want to come alive home, and they will not go into the tunnels. So they were sure that they can, count on their technology. That was their still is Israel's superiority. But with it, you cannot fight a war, especially if the society, if the psychic culture and the psychic organization of the society is so weak. Because it's a society that cannot tolerate any criticism, any reality. Whatever happens, they say, no, it's not. The problem is Hamas. The problem is anti-Semitism in the USA. The problem is Judith Butler. The problem is, I don't know. It's crazy to think, these are the people who are threatening you, yeah?